Here we are getting started. I'm trying to, it just told me that I could change the orientation. I'll have to look into that a little later. Well, obviously, I shouldn't have done that, whatever I just did. Let's turn that back on. Sorry about that, gang. All right. So the boys are back here practicing a little Bakwa application, trying to figure out what they want to do with it. Um, nice. Okay, good. A good straight punch. Hey, so, as they're working on their Kung Fu a little bit, you know, it's always good um, to keep in your mind when you're practicing things. You don't have to have um all the applications to practice a good kung fu. Okay, and that's really a really important part. Is that when uh, if you try to remember too many applications, Sifu Chen used to tell you that you're filling your mind with mental junk, right? And because now you're trying to always lock yourself into some sort of application, which is kind of beta what you and I were talking about earlier, is that you're trying to memorize an application as if it's going to be part of a chess game. And in the reality, when you're sparring most of the time of any kind of physical conflict, it's going to happen so fast. The chessboard is going to move so quickly, you're not even going to know what the hell you were doing. But principles with that application make a difference, right? So if I know, for example, well, let me just take and look at the three basics that you work on, because each one of the five basic styles that I teach have a primary principles or some primary principles that you're supposed to be able to follow as a practitioner. In Tai Chi, we like to use the concept of weaponizing space, giving space, letting things move as if you were a fly on the arm of your opponent, and then follow him back. The main power of Tai Chi Chuan, the primary power that you try to get used to, is that as it comes, then you try to follow him back in so that he doesn't feel the opportunity. That's where you have to trap him in the void. In the void's right there where he feels like everything stops for a moment. But in my mind, I already expect him to go to the void. So while he is falling into the void, I'm already bypassing, going over the bridge into his zone, right? So it'd feel more like this, and then I'm popping back out for this in this case. And so that's what I'm always trying to feel when I'm working in the Tai Chi is that, oh, there it is. And I give space, move around, and then to maybe take it back over. Right. And Bakwa, as we were talking about with the boys, it's about evading. So if the same punch is coming in, I'm going to practice over here to the side and try to fold and unfold my hands so that maybe I have, for example, your standard lightning posture as you walk. But the idea here is I want to evade and coil and put myself in a position to uncoil upon him, right? And Xing, I just want I want to come in and just make him suffer for just thinking about it. Okay, that I mean, literally, the biggest, the one who brings the most, the fastest, usually wins. That's the Xing principle, right? So if I sit there, go, oh, shit, no, I didn't do Bakwa, I didn't do Tai Chi, and I sure as hell didn't do Xing. Okay, I was too busy watching his mechanics and thinking about my application. Now in Hop Gar, it's still evade, but it's to sorry to elicit some uh sting, some power, some cruelty, like a dog biting, like you're going to reach your hand inside the cage. Okay, and then in Choli Foot, it's just going to be this relentless attack. You might give a little bit of passageway here, but for the most part, your idea is you're like a tank. I'm willing to take the shot, and I'm just going to inch in and empower you down. Each one of those are mindsets. So whenever you try to look into application of your martial art, try to look into the principles first of what is the principles of your art. And this is where I get very frustrated sometimes, where sometimes people will teach all the styles as one big conglomeration of northern style stew, and there's not enough delineation, for example, between the different styles for a practitioner to actually learn anything except a whole bunch of movement. So kind of keep that in mind. The boys got me on that train of thought as we were doing it, because Bakwa for me was an art of my heart. It was not an art of mechanics. I couldn't do it mechanically. I had to just trust myself to step like a horse, turn my waist like a wheel, fold and unfold my hands, and see what in the hell comes out. Right? Huh? Yeah, but a lot of times what happens to Ryan's comment about almost all the arts are to the heart, but many arts will try to teach you mechanics until you can put them in your heart, right? And that's true. I mean, like you might learn applications that will lead you to understanding, but the point in this case for me, not for everybody else, there might be some people who do it very, very naturally. And I can do about 5 to 10 good Bakwa applications and teach you how to do it. Right. But when it comes to just being sparring and playing, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I just free my mind of all that so I can just go. No mental junk. I can't do Bakwa and have mental junk. That's being light. Okay. That's what I mean for you, like being light. Just get past trying to be right sometimes and just try to be light. Okay. With that being said, we're going to do a little organ cleansing exercise. And for those of you who have done it with me before, remembering that there's colors and sounds and things like that, I don't expect you to try to recall all that. If you have done it before, uh, just as a quick review, we'll do heart, I'm sorry, liver, heart, spleen, uh, lungs, and kidney, green, red, golden, white, and blue. Um, Chu, ha, fu, sweet, chu, he. Yeah, six healing sounds. All right. That's a lot to remember. So don't try to remember it all. Usually the first thing is just try to remember where in the hell is my spleen? All right. Everybody put your hand on your spleen. It's one of the first places the doctor's going to check. He's going to come over to your left rib cage and go, "How have you been, Ron?" And he's going to put his fingers right underneath that last rib because the spleen is half and half. It's half covered by that last rib and it's half below it. And if you have an infection or something like that and he touches it right there, you can go, "Ooh." And he knows, okay, I need to check, do a white blood cell count, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that's where your spleen is. The liver's on the other side. It extends from this side of your rib on the right side all the way to the midline, weighs about 3.5 pounds. Your heart, right in the middle of your chest, the size of your closed hand. Your kidneys, right underneath the last ribs, the size and shape of your ears. Okay, y'all getting a Chinese anatomy lesson here. And have we done everything else? And the lungs, if you don't know where those are, just hold your breath for a minute. You'll figure it out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn to the side. Let's just take a breath. Exhale, let everything settle down. And if you're wondering why are we doing the organ cleansing today, occasionally it's good to have something for what I call when life happens. You're a dad, you're an employee, life is beating you up. Maybe your health is a little bit down sideways. No, it doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes it's just good to try to find the reset button on the uh, heating and air conditioning, right? Try to find out where am I supposed to be and hit the reset button. Okay. So we'll close our eyes for a moment. And we're going to keep the posture mostly neutral, but there's no problem while we're doing this for you to go from a active rest to being active. Okay. Nothing wrong with that at all. But don't let the arm posturing, irregardless of what you do, interfere with your ability to focus on your organ. Okay. So think about your liver just underneath your right lung. As you breathe in, guide a forest green mist into the liver, washing it out inside and out with that green mist. And as you exhale, exhale and rinse it out, washing and rinsing. And if you're wondering about the organs, part of Chinese cultural history and anatomy is that, we are emotional beings. And as we get older, we tend to be clinging beings. We tend to cling on to emotions. The liver is what is recognized as the storehouse for all forms of anger. Even depression is stored there because depression is just anger directed to the inside. Clean it out, wash it, and rinse it 3 more times. Now let's think about the area of the heart. Let your mind move inward and upward. As you breathe in, guide a fire red mist into your heart. Let it wash in and around your heart. Exhale and rinse it out. You can even think a little bit bigger than your heart because your heart doesn't sit there by itself. It actually floats in another organ called the pericardium, like a fluid that keeps it safe from shocks. 3 more breaths. We want the heart to be free, like a screen door on the front of a house. It can open and close without getting stuck in either position. Now let your mind drift downward and to the left where the spleen sits. You can think of something about the size a little smaller than a tennis ball in the area I told you about. The emotions that are usually stored in the spleen area are things like pensiveness, a sensation that you're walking around on eggshells. I'm going to give it, yeah. The color as you breathe in is going to be like a golden honey, and you wash it inside and out. Exhale, let it go, rinse it out. may be helpful to know. The spleen is like a battleground warehouse. As the blood passes through the spleen, it's being monitored, watched. And if there's a weak or dying white blood cells, they're plucked out and new ones are put in its place. But it is also the place where if a virus is seen, for example, as it's passing through the spleen, they'll try to lock it down and attack it there so it can't get back out. Make sure to give your spleen some love. It doesn't like a lot of stress. It's got a big job to do by itself. It doesn't need to be worried about the spectrum man showing up at noon. Now let your mind move back toward the middle, up a little bit into the lungs. The lungs are where the storehouses of fear in all of its forms. Fear of having a confrontation, fear of heights. Doesn't matter. Mm-mm. I said that wrong. The lungs are where we store grief and sorrow. Primarily, the one that I suffered with mostly is the unwillingness to let go. When the lungs are healthy, they are snow white. So breathe in a snow white mist, washing them in and out. Exhale, rinse them out. Two more breaths. Very good. Now the minds can literally the mind can move down to the kidneys. And this is where fear is stored in all of its forms. And the color when they're healthy is ocean blue. So as you breathe in, guide the ocean blue mist to the kidneys, washing and rinsing them. Exhale, rinse them out. Good. Now let the hands and arms come down to back in front of the lower abdomen. And in the tradition of this meditation, you do the 5 yin organs, and then you do the reset. Uh, um, Physiologically, it's like the hypothalamus. Okay. And so what we want to do is as we breathe in this time, imagine the whole body with the 5 switches here balanced out. Now we need them all to synchronize together. So in this one, what you do is you breathe in and fill up your whole body with an orange mist. And then as you exhale, clear yourself out. Okay, we'll do that 9 times. I'll let you know when I'm finished. And take a few moments and just imagine your body clear like a statue. And then physiologically, think about the realities of nature. You get too many beings, or there's too many birds or beavers or people. You have too many beings in the same place. Usually what you start to have shortly thereafter are forms of conflict and but pretty much a guaranteed that there's going to be an uprising of disease. Well, inside of your core, from your shoulders down to your groin, there's a lot of beings in there. Lots of intestine, heart, lungs, all the stomach, all these organs we didn't even mention. So Sifu would tell us all the time, just stand there for a few moments, poised, head upright. And as you raise your head, I don't mean physically, just in your mind, pull it up. Imagine that that thread runs down and it lifts and pulls the organs up so that they're hanging in the room we call the torso, like a chandelier hanging above the kitchen table. That you pull your head up and all of your organs hang in the appropriate place so they don't feel crowded, they don't feel mushed up together. They have all the space they need, they can breathe, they're not in conflict with one another. Good. Taking a breath, just fold up the fingers a little bit, stand up nice and tall. Good. And that was just about 16, 17 minutes worth of posting. Okay. That last part was one of the probably the most important pieces is for good overall health. Is try to imagine anytime you're doing your posting, irregardless of which style, take a moment and just imagine to chandelier your organs. I think that's how I wrote it in my notes. Chandelier your organs. I think of chandeliering as a verb, not as a noun, right? So you pull them up, everything is where it's supposed to be. And, physiologically too, if you need to, you could look at clinical information. Most people are like this, they squish their lungs and their diaphragm down. So they're mushed together. It's hard for them to take a deep breath and exhale properly, right? Or they hold themselves to where their gut can't move. So they have problems with their intestinal, or may show up in your lower back as the inability to poop properly. So you have inflammation, and all of a sudden you think you got a back problem, and all it is that your intestines are out of whack. So there's a lot of problems that can happen here and show up in other places just because a person may not take the time to chandelier their organs. All right. So anyway, and then the emotional piece. The reason I always loved that exercise was because even if thinking about the liver, for example, I may say to myself, well, how's that helping me release my anger? It doesn't necessarily have to directly, but at least you just put a pressure valve on a pot, right? And released it a little bit so that maybe it can start to release at 5 to 15 pounds of pressure rather than being locked tight. Okay. All right. Well, y'all have a good time and good practice today.